Namaste. Good morning. Thank you, Alex, for that very, very kind introduction. The happy entrepreneur. Sometimes it sounds like an oxymoron, doesn't it? Does a happy entrepreneur actually exist? Entrepreneurs today are running from pillar to post, managing day-to-day operations, trying to piece together their businesses, source funds, and keep the wheels running. In this quest, in this strive for success, somewhere we have left the happiness quotient behind. Somewhere we believe that a happy entrepreneur does not exist. To bust that myth, we have someone with us who very profoundly and famously said, "Do not let success get to your head, and do not let failure get to your heart." Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Gauranga Das Prabhuji. Gauranga Das ji is a graduate from IIT Bombay, a mindful meditation expert, sustainability and climate warrior. He's a social welfare catalyst and a member of ISKCON's governing body commission. Gauranga Das ji is also director of ISKCON's Govardhan Eco Village, the GEV. The GEV has won several awards, including United Nations World Tourism Organization Award in 2017, and enabled GEV's accreditation to multiple UN bodies, including the UNEP, the UNCCD, ECOSOC, and CBD. On behalf of ISKCON, Gauranga Das Prabhuji is UNEP's Faith for Earth counselor. Needless to say, he's a much sought-after guide and a speaker who's traveled the world extensively to share the key to unlock happiness. We are privileged to have you with us here today, sir. May I request you to kindly take the conversation forward, and joining him will be Vishal Agrawala, the National Vice Chairman for Young Indians and the G20 YEA India Sherpa. Thank you so much, sir, for joining in. Over to you and Vishal. Thank you.
Being with us since morning. You took time to travel from Mumbai, even though there were flight cancellations and rain flood forecast. You were one person who never said no. You were so positive, and you believed in us, and thank you for that. So where does this all positivity come from? I mean, amongst everything, you stay focused, you stay so positive. So tell us, guide us in our stressful journey as a young entrepreneur, how to be so stress-free.
Thank you, Vishal, for this beautiful question, and thanks to Young Indians, CII, for welcoming me. One of the most powerful differences between success and happiness is success is to get what you like, and happiness is to like what you get. I found that almost 300 million people across the world, as per statistics, are experiencing stress and anxiety symptoms today. Stress is defined as the gap between expectation and reality. As we go about our day, creating businesses, creating influence in this world, we should try to understand what this body is all about. The body is like a hard disk, and the mind within the body is like a computer, and the mind within the body is like the hard disk. When the hard disk gets corrupted by virus, then the computer hangs. And therefore you need an antivirus software to deal with that. Similarly, when we speak about our day-to-day lives, the mind needs regular rejuvenation. And currently, there are people across the world who are troubled with overthinking. Because, to give an example, if you are eating food, you may not be able to have more than 5 or 6 chapatis or breads at the most. If somebody dumps 100 chapatis or 100 bread and says you eat, one will become sick. So the body has a maximum capacity of how much food and liquids it can handle per day. The same applies to the mind also. So there is a limit to which the mind can handle data on a daily basis. And if we dump and keep dumping on our mind unlimited data, which is beyond the capacity of the mind to handle, it will result in the paralysis of the mind. And that's what is going on in today's day and age. And I remember when I was in college, I had a friend who was doing very well academically, but suddenly out of the blue, after an exam results, he tried to commit suicide. So I was quite surprised because he was doing pretty well and we thought that he's academically proficient. Why did he try to commit suicide? And then when I asked him this question, he said that in every exam till then, he had always got a gold medal. And that had become his identity, that I am a gold medalist. Any exam I crack, I will get the gold. And because he became obsessed with that identity, in that particular exam, instead of getting the gold medal, he got the silver medal, which is pretty good for most of us. But because he had created an identity around that, he was so affected that he could not deal with the fact that a gold medalist has got a silver medal. And so he tried to commit suicide. And interestingly, in the same exam, I had 4 or 5 of my other friends, and they had failed 3 or 4 papers in that same exam. They had massively failed in many papers in that exam. But they were going around the campus peacefully, blissfully, as if nothing has happened. They were blessing others. Relax. So I was shocked. I said, hey, you guys are pretty shameless. You have failed in 3 or 4 exams, but still you are not affected. How is it that you are smiling and so blissful in spite of failing so many exams? And they looked at me and said, our philosophy in life is very simple. Entering the college is our job. Taking us out of the college is college's job. So why should we be worried? So that was the moment where I realized that yes, when we look at the word happiness, it springs from the mind within. And as entrepreneurs, it's extremely important for you to understand this, because you are at the forefront of creating change. You are at the forefront of starting a business, managing a business, growing a business, developing a business, creating impact through that business, and engaging people in the social space with the profits of that business. So you have a tremendous responsibility as leaders. But as you go on creating transformation and change through your business, many times if you are not focused on your own self and you are busy managing the growth, managing the employees, managing the expansion, managing the market cap, sometimes people forget how to manage their own selves. And therefore, people like us are here to share with all of you that across various traditions since time immemorial, there have been methods, there have been techniques, there have been technologies to deal with one's own self so that one is able to manage one's own self better. And so, how to do that better? How to remain a happy entrepreneur? Improve on your self-control, self-management. And you can do that with what I call as the ABCD formula. A for association. Associate with like-minded people like you're already doing through this forum. But associate further with like-minded people who are interested in having a healthy balance between business growth and their own self-development. People who are striving continuously for improving their own selves. And as I say, don't be so busy competing with others that you forget that the most important competition in life is for you to compete and outdo your own previous self. So that complete focus on self-improvement is something which we should be looking at and associate with like-minded people. Second is B, which is books. Read books which help you understand these concepts better, which take you on the journey of self-improvement. C stands for contemplation. And unless you spend some time contemplating, you will not understand what is the GPS of your journey. And D stands for diet, and make sure that the diet is there to keep you alive, not that we live to eat. And so one of the biggest challenges the world is facing is cancer, hypertension, obesity, heart attacks, and a lot of it has to do with balancing our diet. So, in response to that question of yours, these are a few thoughts I have regarding adding positivity and happiness as you're embarking on this journey of entrepreneurship.
Thank you, Guruji. But, you said your friends created an identity around that gold medal. Right? As entrepreneurs in our own companies, we have a vision, we have a brand around which we try to create an identity. And sometimes to live up to that vision and that brand, it's stressful because there are factors which are not under our control. So in that circumstance, how do you still continue to be happy?
Very important question, Vishal Bhai. I would say that sometimes people are into entrepreneurship not because they want to, but because someone else is into it. And so the most important principle is to understand your own self and to understand your own capabilities, your own nature, before embarking on a journey, and not be trapped by the principle of comparison. In a social media driven world, the three cancers of the mind are comparing, complaining, and criticizing. Comparing, complaining, and criticizing I call as the three cancers of the mind. And sometimes when you start comparing, you develop ideas which may not fit you, but still you are trying to do it because someone else is doing. And that is something which becomes at the crux of the beginning of the problem. Just like, nowadays there are so many people who are speakers, motivational speakers, public speakers, and the YouTube generation is kind of, inspiring people that if you're not a good public speaker, then you're not something. So there was somebody who was a trainer, and he had his training session on how to become an expert public speaker. Hundreds of people registered. There was this one guy from the village. He was also attending this. He wanted to be an expert public speaker. So the trainer, at the beginning of his training, said, if you want to have any future as a public speaker, remember one thing, that the beginning of your speech has to be dramatic. If the beginning of your speech is not dramatic, you lose the audience. And then he said, I'll give you an example of what a dramatic beginning should be like. And he said, the best years of my life were spent in the arms of a woman who was not my wife. And the audience got stunned. He said, what is he saying? What kind of a scam is this? And he said, and that woman was my mother. And everybody said, oh wow, that's a great way to begin. So this villager who was attending, he thought, let me go to my village and demonstrate my public speaking skills. I've learned something new. I need people to appreciate it. So he goes to the village, calls the entire village, and he stands up on the podium for the first time in his life, nervous. His heart is beating because he has never done public speaking before. And he stands at the mic and says, "Do you know that the best years of my life were spent in the arms of a woman who's not my wife?" And then he became so nervous that he forgot the next line. And he was trying his level best to remember, and then finally said, "And I can't remember who she was." So, if you are not meant to do something in the first place, and you get into it because your cousin is doing it, your neighbor is doing it, your this one is doing it, that one is doing it, you will end up in trouble. So, before analyzing the business and the opportunity, first analyze whether I will fit into it that or not. Because one of my friends went to a conference and somebody gave him a business card, and the business card had this person's name, and below that was educational qualification. It was written PhD BF. So he said, "Never saw BF. What is this?" He said, "PhD but fail." He said, "What kind of a strange qualification is that?" He said, "You know what? I never wanted to be a PhD. My father forced me. My dear son, your cousins, 3 cousins are PhDs. If you are not PhD, it will look bad for the family. So you should join PhD." So sometimes based on peer pressure, we do something. And then he said, "After 2 years, I realized I'm not meant for PhD. I dropped out. But then my father said, if you're going for conferences, people should see you have a PhD. I said, "But I've not done my PhD." So he said, "To be honest, I added BF in front of but fail." And he said, "You know what? Most people, when they look at this qualification, PhD, BF, they think BF is a qualification beyond PhD. You are the first person who's getting into the depths of this." So I would say that one of the most important ways in which one can analyze whether I should be an entrepreneur or not is to understand how convinced you are about this. And when someone asks you, "When do you want to begin your entrepreneurship journey?" you don't turn back to someone else and say, "What do you think? When should I start?" But rather, you are not looking for anyone else's validation, and you are fully activated to get into it because that inspiration comes to you from deep within. So, to the extent your desire to enter into this entrepreneurship journey is authentic, aligned, aspirational from your own self, to that extent you will be able to deal with the hard knocks which come in the journey. Thank you.
I hope I'm not, I don't say things. Well, there you go. That nervousness, I hope I don't ask wrong questions to you today. You said to not follow the competition, not be in the business of entrepreneurship just on peer pressure. But most of us here, grow up looking at people in some way or form running after money or power. And we know that the world works around it. So given that dynamics, what can we do to replace that with peace and happiness?
Yeah, Vishal Bhai, that's a great question. And I think I would focus on the 4 levels of motivation or intention. Because the quality of experience ultimately depends on the intention with which the action is begun. Just like the quality of a fruit or a vegetable will very much depend on the seed. So therefore, is the intention of beginning this entrepreneurship journey springing from fear, which is the mode of ignorance as per the Gita? Or is it springing from desire, which is the mode of passion? Or is it springing from the sense of duty, which is the level of mode of goodness? So, ignorance and desire, fear and desire both create anxiety. Only when we start working from the principle of duty, there is the beginning of peace. But when you go and rise above duty, you come to the extent of love. The intention to serve and work inspired by love, that begins the process of the journey of joy and bliss. And therefore, I would say that love is defined as service without selfish consideration. In every relationship, in every enterprise, there will be some scarcity, impediment, discomfort, and unhappiness. But still, when the journey continues and we tolerate, knowing that yes, our purpose is right, our intention is right, then something will manifest. So, we have to be able to transform the situation and overcome the stress and anxiety, not with the pill, but by changing the perspective. Just like, somebody was in a boat crossing a river. And he was having some very big, powerful, muscular wrestler sitting right next to him. So this guy asked the wrestler, "Sir, can you tell me what's the time?" The wrestler took his fist, aimed at this guy's head, and hit him hard on his head. Everybody surrounding was bewildered. What's going on? This innocent guy asked the time and the wrestler is hitting him like this. That's not fair. And so everyone told this man who got hit, "Get back on him, get back on him. We are with you." So this guy who got hit was also bewildered. And he said, "Let me clarify before taking any action." He looked at this wrestler and said, "Sir, I asked you time. Why did you hit me with the fist so hard? What is the connection?" And the wrestler said, "You asked for the time. The time is 1 o'clock. And this is my way of showing what the time is. That's my style. It's 1 o'clock right now. So I gave you one on the head." So the other said to this man who got hit, "Come on, this is injustice. Do something, do something. Let's get on him. Let's push him off the boat." So this guy who got hit was still rubbing his head, looked at the wrestler and his size. And then he told the others who were egging him, "I am glad I did not ask him the time 1 hour before." So sometimes when you are faced with a situation and circumstance which is beyond your power, beyond your control, all we can do is tolerate. And to enable that tolerance, transforming the perspectives can be a very, very important tool. So therefore, as entrepreneurs, you are taking risk. You are leading people into a journey of risk. But then you are the leader because you have the ability to take that risk. You have the ability to navigate through chaos, uncertainty, and chart out a path of clarity over a period of time. It is that courage to deal with uncertainty which is making you a successful entrepreneur. And therefore, it's important for you to develop your own tolerance to be able to cope with this uncertainty in the long run. And I think that sense of tolerance is enabled by the fact when you realize, if I'm going through happiness, there will be distress. If I'm going through heat, there will be cold. Duality is part of life and business. Let me deal with it and do the right thing. And behind every decision making, let me always consider whatever decision I take, how can I serve all my stakeholders in the best possible way? Thank you.
That's very interesting because as an entrepreneur, there are a lot of external factors which are not in our control. And you have the fluctuating market dynamics, you have a continuous HR issues, you know, and many more that an entrepreneur sees on a day-to-day basis. Now, should we look to say that we tolerate all of this? Because if we do, then you know what happens to the journey of growth? Because some place or the other it will hit or create a bottleneck. So in that circumstances, what should be a mindset?
Yeah, thank you, Vishal Bhai. I think an entrepreneur is a person who is willing to live many years or for a long period of time in a certain way which most people will not live, so that he can ultimately live a lifestyle which most people cannot. So that is a journey. So that is a journey in itself, and therefore discipline is most important. And the Bhagavad Gita describes discipline as the fusion of intention with action. The fusion of intention with action. And so, as an entrepreneur, you have to have clarity of vision, and you have to have the ability to communicate that vision very clearly. So one of the most important principles as entrepreneurs is for you to create the right corporate culture. As they say, culture eats strategy in breakfast. So, to create the right kind of culture is extremely important. And for creating that culture, the culture of collaboration, cooperation, not competition and envy, you can do three things. What is an ideal corporate culture in an entrepreneurial setup? First, it should be egoless. Egoless, which means humility. And the word humility comes from the Latin word humus, which means soil. Soil is the place where you put the seed grows. So for any of the powerful ideas to fructify, the seed of the ideas need to be planted in the soil of humility. And which means that your team and your entire setup in the entrepreneurial journey, each member should be willing to share the authorship of ideas with others, or there should not be obsession over the authorship of ideas. Because in this journey, so many ideas keep coming. And that is something which I always, see in situations like this. And when one is egoless, one is able to withstand difficulties and challenges. And it doesn't matter whose idea fructifies and is successful, because ultimately it is the enterprise which, benefits. Somebody went to a house. This person was, collecting some donations. He goes to a lady's house, knocks on the door. The lady opens the door. She's in an angry mood. This man who's soliciting some funds asks her, "Madam, can you give something in charity?" The lady is in a angry mood. It's a bad morning for her. She goes inside the kitchen, and you have this lot of ash which comes out of the wooden stove. So that wooden stove has created a lot of ash. She brings a bucket full of ash and dumps it into this man's bag. And she says, "You wanted something from me, right? Take all of this useless ash and get lost." the man who has come to solicit funds is not in the least discouraged. He is completely egoless. He folds his hand to this lady and says, "Thank you so much, lady. I will come again tomorrow to ask for more funds." The lady is very amazed. She says, "Hey, I am giving you so much of useless ash. Why you will come again tomorrow?" So the man again folds his hand, looks at the lady and says, "My dear lady, I feel glad that today at least you have begun your journey of giving." And then the lady says, "Oh, really?" And the man says, "Yes, lady, today you have given ash, tomorrow you will give cash. I have that confidence." So that's the first, that one has to be egoless. Second, we should remember that as a unit, you may have the best talent, but if they are not cohesive, then there will be a lot of action, but no traction. So therefore, just like in a canoe, all those boatmen have to be aligned. So if they're not aligned in their actions, there will only be a lot of repetitive action, but no progress. And I think that's a very, very important principle, that people coming together is not sufficient, but the cohesiveness should be important. Otherwise, if each person is thinking that, "Oh, we are together, but let me do something by which I can cheat," then everything will fall apart. Like three friends, they came together and said, "Let's have a startup." They said, "Okay, let's have a startup." And then they signed the documents and everything and said, "Okay, let's celebrate with a party." They said, "Okay, let's celebrate." So they said, "Okay, let's make some ice cream." So they came together and they themselves made ice cream, but it turned out to be very less, only small portion. So one of them said, "It is such a small portion of ice cream, I don't think any of us will be satisfied if we cut it into 3 parts. What we'll do is we'll allow only one amongst us to have this ice cream tomorrow morning. But who will be that privileged person who will have the ice cream? When we sleep tonight, whoever gets the best dream will have that ice cream." I said, "Oh." All of them were thinking, "I will prove that I have the best dream and I will cheat the other two." So they slept. In the morning, the first guy said, "You know what? In my dream yesterday, I had gone to Greenland and I was talking to the Eskimos there." And the second guy said, "You know what? Forget Greenland. I went to Antarctica and I was dancing with the penguins." And then the third guy, he was asked, "What was your dream?" He said, "Well, in my dream, a powerful wrestler came and showed me the fist and kept the fist right in front of my nose and said, 'Eat the ice cream, otherwise I'll punch you hard.' And then the other two said, 'What did you do?' I said, 'I became so scared, I got up and ate the ice cream.' The other two said, 'But that was not the agreement. You were supposed to wait for us and we were supposed to discuss and everything. How could you eat the ice cream alone?' And this guy said, 'Well, I tried to find you, but you were in Greenland and you were in Antarctica. What could I do?' So just people coming together doesn't automatically guarantee cohesion. And then the third very important principle is listening. You create a product, you create a journey, but then every step of the journey, are you listening to the feedback coming from different stakeholders? Because sometimes the idea of entrepreneurship is such that we become very obsessed with a particular idea, a particular methodology, a particular way of moving ahead, that we may not always be open to hearing feedbacks. And sometimes the feedbacks are so strong and so diametrically opposite our original idea and plans. And when we become attached to the idea rather than attached to the fact that the enterprise must succeed, then it becomes difficult. So therefore, it's important that you create the right kind of culture in your entrepreneurship, which should be egoless, it should be cohesive, and you are actually listening to people attentively. And always remember that the effectiveness of a decision is equal to the quality of the decision multiplied by acceptance square. And therefore, that's very, very important. Thank you.
Very interesting. You are also the director at the Govardhan Village, which has won many accolades for sustainable living. So, what is that one thing that keeps you happy running such a diverse and a unique setup? And what is that one thing that you do to keep your people happy? Does both these factors converge into one, or they are different?
Thank you, Vishal Bhai. The whole idea of the Govardhan Eco Village is we wanted to connect the cities in India to the villages. India has almost 650,000 villages. We have many honorable guests from different parts of the world. 1.4 billion of India's population, out of that 800 million live in the villages. And when someone leaves the village and goes to the city, they do not come back. So we were very worried about this migration. So we thought, let us try to reverse this migration. So we thought, how do we connect city to the village? We thought, okay, the city people are looking for peace, and the people in the village are looking for paisa. Can we connect peace and paisa? So we created a sustainable tourism model with 120 key rooms in a village in Palghar district in India, and we call it the Govardhan Eco Village. And the idea is, when people come for yoga, Ayurveda, wellness, for tourism, and then they look at what are the kind of sustainable living practices we are following in that village, like zero waste, zero energy, all kinds of sustainable practices of creating 400,000 mud blocks, which are compressed stabilized earth blocks, which use only 0.275 megajoules per kilogram of energy as compared to 72 megajoules per kilogram of energy. We thought with this kind of self-transformation and sustainability, we can also do social impact in 200 villages across. So we call it the S3 impact model: spirituality, self-transformation, sustainability, and social impact. And when people come there, they feel transformed and they want to participate. So the one most important principle we kept in mind in this journey is trust. And when does trust develop? Trust develops when there is harmony with the self, harmony with nature, and harmony with the community. And that's what we tried to establish, so that this trust became the complete hallmark of our entire journey. Trust within the members of the community, trust with people who are surrounding our community for whom we are working, and trust with the stakeholders, including the government. Because when there is trust, then even though there are ups and downs, because of the resilience through that relationship of trust, things can continue. Like, for example, I was invited for a lecture in a place which is 3 hours north of Kolkata called Kharagpur, or maybe south of Calcutta. So it is 3-hour journey, IIT Kharagpur. So I was traveling with 2 of my other friends who were from another country, and they were visiting India. So they joined me in that journey. Our flight landed in Kolkata. And when it landed in Kolkata, when we came out, we were welcomed with garlands. And then we were told that today there is Bengal Bandh. That means the vehicles will not move. That's what we heard when we landed. So when we came out and when we were welcomed with these garlands, I asked the organizers, so today is Bengal Bandh, which means the vehicles cannot travel. It's a 3-hour journey. So looks like today's program must be cancelled. And they said, no, the program is on. I said, hey, I am with my 2 foreign friends. How will we travel? It is Bengal Bandh, the vehicles cannot go. And the organizer said, we have come to pick you up in an ambulance. And the ambulance has permission to go. There was some patient going that way, so we are picking you also and going that way. So when I got inside the ambulance, my 2 foreign friends got a little bewildered. And they said, why are we entering ambulance? I said, it's very difficult to explain because there is a big history behind it. And then I sat in the front and my 2 friends were behind and we were stopped. The ambulance was stopped after some time by a group of agitators and they said, we want to see who is behind, whether it is genuine or not. And these guys went behind and they looked inside. And my 2 foreign friends, after eating breakfast but still with the garlands around their neck, were sleeping peacefully. This guy looked inside and said, may their souls rest in peace. And within 3 hours, we reached the destination. So therefore, sometimes you need to have a fair degree of trust in the people, in the innovations, because without that trust and sufficient resilience, no innovation can stand the test of time.
Thank you. I'm so happy that you touched on trust. I just saw our past National Chair, Rahul Mirchandani, walk in, and he was instrumental in drafting the document that keeps all of us together, the charter document. And that charter document was made around the pretext of talk, trust, trade. So that is what gets us all together. Before we end, we would also like to see a small video of the Govardhan Eco Village, if you can.
There is a 1-minute video.
Yeah.
You can play that. Okay.
It looks like there is a small technical
Rampant
glitch. We'll play the video at a later time.
They got it here. Yeah.
Rampant illiteracy, malnutrition, and lack of infrastructure. This is the story of Wada, one of India's most backward tribal areas. However, since 2010, ecotourism has become a lifeline for this region. Govardhan Eco Village's sustainable development model, which is based on harmony with the self, the environment, and the divine, has helped employ over 300 tribal families. More than 60,000 tribals have been provided free medical care.
मोतीबिंदूचं ऑपरेशन झालं मला आता चांगलं दिसतं
30,000 free meals are provided to school children every day.
मुलं स्वतःहून शाळेत यायला तयार होतात.
Over 60 borewells have been installed.
पाण्याच्या अडचणी दूर झाल्या.
More than 300 families received training in organic farming.
आता
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. We'll try and play this video once again during the summit.
We want to thank you very much for that, and it was a bit of a contrast. You talked about slowing down your mind, and we speeded up your video, so thank you for your patience. I'd like to call upon Chris Beckford from the UK to present your gift. Chris is the Sherpa representing the UK delegation right here. Chris? Yep. Great. Hey, Chris. Oh, stay for the picture. No, thank you. Picture. Take a picture. Okay. Thank you again. That was lovely. Very much appreciate that. Okay.